Today we're going to be talking about fractions when you have a set rather than one shape that's been broken into pieces. Now, it still works the same way. In a fraction, you're always going to have one number on top and one number on the bottom. The bottom number is called your denominator. It's the total number of pieces in one whole. With a set, you have to be careful in knowing what is considered one whole. So for example, in my picture right here, the whole would be all 4 circles. So since the bottom number, the denominator, is the total number of pieces, it would be 4 because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 total pieces. The top number is called the numerator. The numerator is the number of pieces that you are working with, or the number of pieces that are shaded in. So in my picture again, with this whole thing being one whole set of circles, there are 1, 2, 3 that are colored in. So 3 is my numerator. Altogether, my fraction would be 3/4 because 3 out of a total of 4 pieces are colored in. Now sometimes when you have a set, it doesn't work out quite as nicely as you would like. I can see that with this particular fraction, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total pieces. The bottom number tells me the total pieces, so I have the 9 written there. The top number tells me how many pieces are shaded in. So there are 1, 2, 3 out of the 9 pieces colored in. Therefore, this fraction will be considered 3/9. Now there's another way of thinking about this particular fraction. I could reduce it and find an equivalent fraction by thinking about how I could group some of these pieces together. For example, if I were to take these 3 rows and think of each row as its own set, then I could see that there are 1, 2, 3 sets. Now instead of thinking of it as 9 individual pieces, I'm thinking of it as 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets. Thinking of it in this way, I end up with a different fraction. Now I have 1, 2, 3 total sets, and 1 out of those 3 sets has been colored in. I could organize it in a slightly different way as well. I could think about how I could divide it up again so that I have equal sets. If I had drawn my circles going this direction, I would have a slightly different appearing diagram. My circles are going up and down. I still have 1, 2, 3 items in each one. And now I really want to analyze each one of these sets. Looking at just this set right here, I notice I have 3 total pieces, 1, 2, 3, and 1 out of those 3 has been colored in. Same goes for this one, 1, 2, 3 total pieces, and 1 out of the 3 has been colored in. Same with this one, 1, 2, 3 total pieces, and 1 out of the 3 has been colored in. So there's different ways of thinking of it, but either which way, we figured out that 3 out of 9 total pieces, or 1 out of 3 small subsets, would be the same idea, the same amount colored in. Let's see how we can use these 2 strategies to help us to figure out 1/4. Looking at this, I can't automatically figure out what 1/4 is because I don't just have 4 pieces. If I only had 4 squares, I could easily color in 1 out of those 4 squares and be done. So what I need to do is think about how I can arrange some of these boxes in order to make 4 groups. I can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So I can start to think of this as 4 rows instead of 20 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can see I have 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, and my total of 4 makes sense. What I'm saying here with this fraction is that 1 out of those 4 groups needs to be colored in. So this would need to be colored in, 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 and this would need to be colored in. Let's figure out what fraction of the squares are colored in. Remember, my denominator, my bottom number, is the total pieces. I can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's a total of 20 pieces. Now I need to figure out how many were colored in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were colored in. So 1/4 is the same thing as 5/20. And I know because I have 1 out of 4 rows colored in, or 5 out of 20 pieces colored in. Let's practice the same fraction again, but using that second strategy of grouping them together in 4s. Now what I want to do is I want to think about how I could put these together into groups of 4. So I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and last 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in each one of these where I have a group of 4, I need to make the fraction 1/4. So 1 out of each group of 4 should be colored in. Notice I don't have 4 groups right now. I'm thinking of it in a separate way. I'm looking at here. In this fraction, I've said that 4 is my total, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 is my total, and 1 out of the 4 has to be colored in. So this one needs to be colored in. And 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 this one needs to be colored in. Notice that in each one of my pictures, 1 out of the 4, 1 out of the 4, 1 out of the 4, and 1 out of the 4, and 1 out of the 4 has been colored in. So that would mean 1/4 has been colored in for each one of these pictures, so I know I have 1/4 of the total colored in as well. To find my fraction again, now I just count the squares. We already figured out that there's 20 total squares. That would be my denominator. And now I need to figure out how many are colored in. I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colored in. We ended up with the same fraction of 5/20, but we just got there in a different way. So notice in this way of thinking of it, you make it into 4 equal groups. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, and then I color in one whole group because I have 1 out of 4 groups. In this set, I'm thinking of it as making it pieces of 4. So here's a group of 4, 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 and here's a group of 4. And then in each one of those, I individually make the fraction of 1/4. So this has 1/4 colored in. 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 And this has 1/4 colored in. Then I just need to count how many pieces are colored in. What I recommend is that you pick one strategy that really makes sense to you, whether it's dividing it into 4 groups or putting it into groups of 4, and stick with that strategy while we're practicing. So let's see what you can do here with 2/3. Can you remember what would be the first step? Well, depending on what you're most comfortable with, you're either going to try to put it into 3 groups, or you're going to put them into groups of 3. I think it's easier to just put them into groups of 3. So I'm automatically going to start and say 1, 2, 3, there's a group of 3. 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 Now what I need to do is think of each one of these groups as its own thing where I'm coloring in 2/3 of it. So for example, with this one right here, I'm thinking of just in this circle of my total 3, I want to color in 2/3. So here I can say 1/3, 2/3. Now I move on to my next set. So this has 2 out of 3 colored in. Now I want 2 out of 3 of this one colored in. There's 2/3, 1/3, 2/3. Moving on to my next set. I want 2 out of the 3 colored in. Doesn't matter which 2 I color in. Maybe this one and this one. But I want 2 out of the 3 colored in. Moving to my next set. I want 2 out of 3 colored in. Moving to my next set. I want 2 out of 3 colored in. And last but not least, out of this set, I want 1, 2 out of 3 colored in. So in each one of my sets, 2 out of the 3 were colored in. It looks a little goofy, but I know that I've colored in 2/3 of the squares because in each one of my sets, 2/3 is colored in. Now I just have to count my squares. Altogether, my total is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So my total is 18. Now counting in how many are colored, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 2/3 would be the same thing as 12/18. Now if you liked that other strategy of making 3 equal groups, you could have seen that there is 1, 2, 3 rows, so I could have colored in 2 out of 3 rows. And if I would have done that, I would have had 6 plus 6, which still equals 12 out of 18. Either which way, I get equivalent fractions. I want you to try these last ones on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and copy down each one of the pictures. Then on this one, I want you to color in 1/4. On this one, I want you to color in 2/3. And then on this set down here, I want you to color in 3/4. After you think you have your answer, go ahead and push play again, and then you can check your work. Let's go ahead and start with this one. We're trying to make 1/4. So what I do is I would make them into groups of 4 and then just color in 1 in each one of those groups. So here I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in each one of these groups I need to color in 1/4. So right here I want to color in 1 out of the 4. On this guy, I want to color in 1 out of the 4 pieces, and then in this set, I want to color in 1 out of the 4 pieces. Altogether, I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces. And the ones that have been shaded in, there is 1, 2, 3. So 1/4 would be the same thing as 3/12. Now let's look at this one. I want 2/3 colored in. So I would normally put them in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then look at each set on its own. In each set, I want 2 out of the 3 colored in. So looking at this one right here, I would want to have 1, 2 out of the 3 colored in. And then looking at this set down here, I would want to have 1, 2 of the 3 colored in. Altogether, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 colored in. And my total would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would end up with 4, 6. You could have also seen 3 groups. There's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, and then 2 of those groups would be colored in. So say this row and this row would be colored in. So I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6 colored in. On my last set, I'm going to try to put them into groups of 4. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now in each group I want 3 out of the 4 colored in. So I want this one, and this one colored in, because that would be 3 out of the 4. I would want 1, 2, 3 colored in, because that would be 3 out of the 4. I want 1, 2, 3 colored in, because that would be 3 out of the 4. And then I want 1, 2, 3 colored in, because that would be 3 out of 4. Thinking of my fraction, I can see that there's 4, 8, 12, 16 total. And we have colored in 3, 6, 9, 12 of them. So that would give me a fraction of 12/16. I also could have thought of it as 4 groups, so I can see 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups going up and down, and coloring 3 of those groups in. So this is a whole group colored, the whole group colored, the whole group colored, 3 out of the 4 groups colored. Either which strategy will work out. Make sure though that you pick one and really stick with it so it makes sense to you. Go ahead and you can move on to your next activity.